When you're watching Die Hard, there is something about these early action movies that I kind of like, but I'm kind of like they're a product of their time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so much about this movie I found did things good, but I was just like, it's so cheesy. It's so, you know, it so doesn't work. You know what I mean? It's just that like you have to appreciate it for like how old it is and like the time it was. So I mentally put myself in the space where it's like, all right, imagine you're like, in the I think this is in the 90s or 80s, and I was like, put yourself in the shoes of like, all right, you know what I mean? I'm fresh. You know what I mean? This is my first time seeing this movie with Bruce Willis. Maybe he's done other movies, I don't know. But like this was like a big movie of his. Anyways, it's like you go to the theaters and you're like, all right, this is gonna be like an action movie. Let's see what it's about. And I put myself in that headspace and I was like, I can see. I tried and I could see it, but at the same time, I was just like, I guess I'm just a product of my time where it's like you get so used to the action pieces like having more choreography, right? Like the action is a lot more explosive, I guess I should say. It's a lot more dynamic now. It's a lot more cinematic, I guess, right? Like like in those movies, it was action, but like, they spent a whole 5 minutes of Bruce Willis jumping on some dude's back and they just tumble and then they fall down the stairs and the guy dies. I was like, what? I was like, that was it? I was like, man, that's crazy, He didn't really do all that much. So it's kind of like an appreciation to see that, like, this was how it used to be and this is where it is now. It's a lot more, you know what I mean? It's a lot more serious. It's a lot more thoughtful. They really put their time. They put a lot of time and effort into making better action set pieces now, you know what I mean? So, and I also, last time I talked about the movie Troy, those choreographed fights were so amazing, right? And I think the difference between a movie like that and the difference between kind of a grittier, everyman, fight in like in a building as opposed to like the Trojan War, there's obviously going to be some differences, but you can see like just the level, the jump increase, you know what I mean? But again, this was 1980, 1990 or something like that. And then Troy came out in like 2004. So take that for what you will, you know what I mean? It's just, it could be, the difference is staggering, but it's really good. And I think that's a great example of seeing that like, how cinema has continued to adapt, and I really enjoyed it. But there were other things I enjoyed about this movie. I mean, Bruce Willis is obviously a standout. He does a really good job. There were a couple of moments where the dialogue was kind of like, well, you get the trope, right? Like you understand what they're going for. It's just like, oh, this is the head. This is the top guy at the police department. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's doing everything wrong. And then you have the city beat cop who's played by the guy who plays Carl Winslow in Family Matters. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what is he doing in this movie? I was like, this is crazy. And he kind of has like a nice arc in the movie. I won't say it's like perfect, but it's definitely like, it made me laugh. And it made me laugh because it was just like, oh, they were really doing this. Another standout character was ARGYLE. ARGYLE was, oh my gosh. If you want to talk about a top tier limousine driver, that guy, dude, the whole movie, he's chilling in the limousine of a parking lot during a party. It's like, bro, can't you? Oh my gosh, that guy was living life. He was just chilling in his car doing nothing. He was just like, oh yeah. He was listening to music, sitting next to a teddy bear. He was in there with like TV, VHS, DVD. He had everything in there. You know what I mean? He was just doing whatever he wanted. He had cassette tapes, CDs. He had a full open bar right there, right? He was living life in that limousine, dude. And then he comes through, you know what I mean? Like kind of towards the end, he kind of does like an action. I mean, he comes in and he does it one time by himself. He crashes into the bad guy's van or whatever, and then he punches the other dude in the face, and it's just like, yeah, you know what I mean? Hero, you know what I'm saying? And then at the end, he drives out, and then he picks up Bruce Willis and his wife, and he's just kind of like, yo, what's up, man? What's up, John? And then he's just kind of like, hey, what's up, Argyle? It's good to see you. And then they drive off into the Christmas night, you know what I'm saying? There were also a bunch of weird things in the movie, like they... All right. Maybe I should start at the start. Start at the beginning, okay? We kind of just meet John McClane. He's on a plane. We see that he's going somewhere and he has a teddy bear. So it's obviously for someone, but, you know, he kind of has his eye on other women from here and there, you know what I mean? He's kind of just like, oh, snap, she's cute or whatever, right? Just giving passing glances. Anyways, he's going to see his wife at a Christmas party in her work office or whatever. And then one thing leads to another, and terrorists take over the place. Well, they're not terrorists. They're just thieves, okay? But you're kind of just seeing John McClane show up, and he shows up at the place, and he's kind of like, hey, what's up, everybody? He's like, I'm here to see my wife. And you kind of just get a breakdown of like, what's the security like? How does he get to the top? You know, where is he going specifically? And they kind of they make the story so that way you understand where everything is, you understand the full setting, and then you get straight to the action. You know, and there's no setup for the antagonists or the bad guys. It kind of just, they show up and then it gets started, you know what I mean? And I guess that's pretty fair for all antagonists or all villains, but that's what happened to this movie. So anyways, John, Bruce Willis's character, sees his ex-wife and he's kind of like, hey man, you know, why did you change your, you know what I mean? You're not doing McClane anymore. You're taking your maiden name again. And then they kind of have like this bicker argument, and that's when everything goes down. And then Alan Rickman, shout out to that man. Oh my gosh. He did a good job in this movie. I was surprised. I was pretty surprised. I was like, man, this guy is born to do evil roles. You know what I mean? He was born, well, maybe that's the wrong word. He was just kind of like, the guy does a great job at like the villain trope. You know what I mean? It kind of reminded me a little bit of, I was watching, I was like, man, I was kind of looking at it and I was like, he has the British accent and it makes me think of Harry Potter, and I'm just kind of like, yeah. I was like, I kind of wanted him to say Harry in the movie. I don't know if he does. I don't remember right now, but he does a great job. Anyways, the overall premise of the movie is Alan Rickman, wants to break into a vault and steal some, what's it called? Oh my gosh. Stocks? Or, no, what are they called? There's some sort of, it's just, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on it. They're stocks, right? Something like that. They're, essentially, he's going for a vault full of not money, but it's just like he's going in there to get something valuable, all right? And it's paper, okay? So anyways, he has to first use a code to hack in for the first lock. Then the rest of the locks, they have to manually drill through. And then the final lock, they have to kind of shut down, or it's an electronic it's an electronic protection thing, and they kind of have to like shut down the power or blow it up or do something to like trigger it to go off. So anyways, there's that. And throughout the whole movie, you kind of just see Bruce Willis trying to save the people and his wife. And you basically just see all of this go down on Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve, by the way. You kind of just see him, you know, fighting them one by one, kind of. You know what I mean? maybe not one by one, but he fights them throughout the whole movie. All right, that's the whole premise. That's what's going on. So, anyways, like I already said, you see Bruce Willis kind of take his time, kind of seeing what's going on, trying to figure out, like, all right, who are the bad guys? What do they want? What are they going for? And eventually he has to fight this one guy, and he jumps on his back. And then for the life of me, I was like, we're taking, I got immediately bored. I was just kind of like, are they going to throw hands? Are they going to start going for it? But no, they just hold on and they just keep on struggling, and then they fall down the stairs, and then the guy dies. I was just kind of like, all right, I guess that's the end of it. So then throughout the whole movie, Bruce Willis just keeps on messing with them. He's just kind of like, hey guys, this guy is dead, and now I have a machine gun, and I know exactly, I don't know what you guys are planning or trying to do, but I'm going to kill you all. And then he has like this radio, and he's trying to do literally everything in his power to get police or some sort of authority into the building. So first he pulls a fire alarm, and the bad guys kind of just go like, yeah, it's a false alarm, go away, it's nothing too big. Then he tries to radio the police with the walkie-talkie. It's like a radio. He goes onto a not a private, I mean, it's an emergency radio line. And he's kind of like, listen, guys, there's something going on here at the, oh my gosh, the I forget the name of it, the Nakatomi. It was some sort of, in the building that I'm in, it's just happening right here, right now. And the lady's like, sir, this is an emergency line. And he's like, what do you think I'm doing here? He's like, you think I'm ordering pizza from you guys? I need you guys to listen to me. Just get over here. Send a cop. Send anybody. And she was just kind of like, sir, this is an emergency line. Oh my gosh. It just bothered me so much. I was just kind of like, can't you understand, lady? He's using the emergency line to get your attention. So then that's when they send over Carl Winslow. And then everything's going good. Everything's great. You know what I'm saying? He shows up by himself, and he kind of just like is circling, and he's like, Bruce Willis is looking at him through the window, and he's like, dude, come inside, do something. He's just like, gosh, this guy's an idiot. So then he's kind of looking at him. And as he's circling around, he's kind of like, all right, I'm going to take a quick look inside, and then we'll see how everything's going. He takes a quick look inside, and then he's kind of like, yeah, there's no problem here. There's definitely no problem here. And Bruce Willis is like, all right, I gotta get this guy's attention. So he's trying to break a window to get through and like maybe throw it at the cop car or like do something just to get his attention, to let him know that like not everything's okay. So in the midst of that, he has to fight two other guys. And meanwhile, by the way, he's doing all of this in like a tank top and no shoes, which is like, you know what I mean? You're kind of just like, all right, you know what I mean? At first I was kind of like, this is so dumb. I was like, that's so high risk for no reason. But then I was thinking to myself, I was like, but they do horror movies where like the girl is like half naked. So I was just kind of like, do you know what I mean? I was just kind of like, you know what? If they do this to the guy too, then it's even, then it's fair. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not just like, oh, we're going to make the girl half naked in the movie because we want to. I mean, they probably want to, you know what I mean? But I'm saying like, it makes it even, you know what I mean? It's like he's in a tank top or shirtless and whatnot. It's like, okay, that, I can be like, well, it's not practical, but he's doing it. So, I thought that was kind of like, okay, whatever. So anyways, he kills the two guys, and then finally he's kind of like, all right, I know how to get this cop's attention. The cop, Carl Winslow, is about to leave, and then bam, he throws the dead guy onto the cop car, and then that's when the bad guy starts shooting at the cop car. Well, they're shooting at the dead body, or like the people there. And they're mostly shooting at the cop car, but they're kind of like shooting at him because they saw somebody jump and they thought that could be the guy that they're trying to kill. So anyways, they're just straight up blasting the car. And then Carl Winslow's like, back up. I'm taking heavy fire. I'm taking heavy fire. Oh my gosh, I'm taking heavy fire. Come over here quickly. And then he drives backwards all the way down like an alley or something. And he's like about to get out of the car. Like he opens his car door and he looks like he's about to jump out. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, the way that the car fell or like landed, I know that if he gets out of the car right there, he's going to like, his ankles aren't going to be able to handle it. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how you look down and you're kind of like, all right, if I jump from here, I'll be okay. You know what I'm saying? But if you jump from like, let's say 6 or 7 feet up in the air, then it's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to land, but depending on your like weight and you know, overall strength, it's going to be kind of like iffy about like whether or not you're going to be able to handle the fall all that well. So I'm looking at Carl Winslow and I'm like, there's no way he's jumping out of that car, because I know if he tries to jump out, he's definitely going to hurt his ankles. But they don't show that part. They just show him after the fact out of the car and just kind of like, all right, I'm out. And now I got to talk to my police comrades. And this is when Bruce Willis starts talking to Carl Winslow over the radio. He's like, listen, man, this is a party line and the other guys have itchy trigger fingers, okay? So you and I have to talk very carefully here and very shortly between each other, okay? And Carl Winslow's like, all right, man. And they kind of have like this banter throughout the whole movie, which kind of makes them like friends or brothers, but it just kind of feels like, you know, I just feel like Carl Winslow doesn't really do anything, but he does listen. I will give him that. He does listen. So anyways, focusing more on Carl Winslow, he kind of says, listen, man, I work behind a desk, you know what I mean? I very rarely go out on patrol. And he's like, on this particular night, I just went out one night. I was on my way home and then I got your emergency and now I'm here, you know, and now this is happening. And then Bruce Willis is like, yeah, why you work behind the desk? You suck at driving? You're not good at it? And he's like, I shot a 13-year-old kid. And I was just like, what? I was like, you should be fired. I was like, you killed the kid? Oh my gosh. I was like, that's terrible. I was like, you should be fired. You know what I mean? But he's just kind of like, yeah, man, I regret it. And Bruce Willis is like, damn, man, that's crazy. But now we're here, you know what I mean? Life is going upside down right now. And Carl Winslow's like, ever since then, man, I've never had the courage to shoot my gun ever again. So I'm not going to. And Bruce Willis is like, yeah, well, don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it, man. Everybody has bad days. And then Carl Winslow is like, they never tell you how to get, you know, as a cop, they tell you everything in the book, but they never tell you how to get over your worst mistakes. And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, the cheese, it is some next level cheese. So I was just kind of like, all right. So then I think to myself, I was like, all right, so he obviously has to shoot his gun, but I don't know when that's gonna happen. So then Bruce Willis is now going back and forth with the villains, with Alan Rickman. And he's kind of just like, hey man, you're not going to get what you want. And I'm going to get out of here and I'm defeating all your guys. And Alan Rickman puts on his wife's coworker who's being an idiot, essentially. He's trying to cooperate with them, which you should never do. And Bruce Willis is like, listen, Ellis, what did you tell them about me? He was like, I told them your name. I told them where you live. I told them that we're buddies and that we were hanging out at the party here. And I told them all of this stuff about you. I told them you're a cop from New York City. I told them this and that. And he was just kind of like, dude, you shouldn't be talking to them. You don't know what you're doing. And he was like, I don't know this guy. You got to get out of there right now. And the guy's like, nah, man, me and these bad guys are cool. We have an understanding. They just want the detonator so that they could blow up the vault. And Bruce Willis is like, you need to stop talking to them. Get out of there. And the guy's like, what are you going to do? And then essentially Bruce Willis is like, I don't know him. I don't know him. What's going to happen here? And so then that's when Alan Rickman essentially blows his head off. He shoots him point blank in the head. And now everything's up and, now they just lost more people. And by people, I mean hostages. They just lost more hostages. And in a hostage situation, your main goal, your main priority is to protect them. And that's what Bruce Willis was trying to do. But this idiot, basically, he killed himself. That's essentially what happened. He was snorting, He was snorting the good stuff. Like, you know what I mean? You can't really help somebody like that. But it is what it is. You do what you can. You know what I'm saying? So Bruce Willis is out there risking his life to save them. And this guy's over here making deals with Alan Rickman. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So in the grand scheme of things, Bruce Willis tried his best to get him to shut up and get out of there and essentially save himself. But then, and he gave up valuable information about John McClane. Like, he was a nobody to anybody, right? But then now they know little bits of information about him. And so essentially he's lost all anonymity. You know what I mean? So then I want to say what happens. Well, then next he keeps on talking to Al, or Carl Winslow, or whoever. He keeps on talking to him, and eventually the top guys get there, the LAPD commissioner, whoever was in charge of the police department. And then you have also the FBI show up eventually. So that it gets kind of crazy. Like, they shoot missiles at the police, right? Like, they have big explosions and stuff. All kinds of stuff goes down. Bruce Willis throws a bomb down and blows up one of the levels, but the building doesn't come down. Crazy enough. What else is there? Eventually it gets down to like I don't want to say like a final explosion, but it just comes down to like a final confrontation with the top of the building, the FBI sending in a helicopter, and it kind of just feels like one final moment where it's just like the building's going to explode, or at least the roof of the building is going to explode, and now we have to get out and escape. And Bruce Willis kind of tells everybody, get off of the roof, get off the roof. And then he ties himself with like a fire hose, and he jumps off the building. The thing explodes, and then he has to like crash into the building again, and then he makes it. You know what I'm saying? So long story short, Bruce Willis fights. Bruce Willis has to find his wife, right? And he confronts Alan Rickman and Carl. And Carl is like this Swedish guy who he killed his brother. Like, that was the first guy he killed, was his brother. And he's been trying to kill Bruce Willis ever since then. And then Alan Rickman is like, I have your wife now, because he found out his wife is... He found out that his wife was being held hostage, and she is married to Bruce Willis, who's John McClane. And he's like, I have your wife now. Put your machine gun down, and this will be the end of it all. Or give me my detonators, and this will end it all. And John McClane's just kind of like, okay. And then he has a gun taped to his back, which I thought, hey, that's pretty, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say that's like the best move, but it is genius. You know what I mean? Obviously, the cool thing to do would be to last minute kill them both, which he does, but it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? Better to fight and get it over with than to have that ace up your sleeve. Because you never know what's going to happen. But anyways, he grabs the gun, rips it off of his back, and then kills Alan. Oh, he kills the Carl guy. Well, no, he doesn't. Essentially, he shoots Alan Rickman to get his wife off, and then he tries to shoot the other guy, and he does. And then Alan Rickman is kind of... He's hanging on by a thread, and I guess... I want to say Bruce Willis kicks him off or something, or like punches him off or whatever. But all you need to know is Alan Rickman falls, and that's his doom. And throughout the movie, they kind of have like pretty cheesy lines. You know what I mean? Like yippee-ki-yay. I don't know, dude. It's just kind of like, I guess those were kind of the early. Those are the kind of early action movie tropes that they would do, you know? So anyways, I think that this movie, all cheesiness aside, all of the things that make the movie what it is, as cliche as it is, as like typical action movie as it gets, it kind of just... it works, you know what I mean? I may not overall think it's like the greatest action movie ever, but I think like as a starting point, it's pretty cool. And you have to include the time it was made in. So anyways, in the end, at the very end, John McClane has his wife, Argyle comes through, he finally meets Carl Winslow in the movie. He's kind of like, dude, what's up, dude? We made it. We made it through the storm. You know, I'm so happy to be right by your side. And they kind of have like a final stare with each other where it's like, that's John McClane. And John McClane's like, that's the police officer I've been talking to this whole time. And they kind of like embrace each other. He's like, this is my wife. And then the guy that John McClane shot, Carl, he starts, you know what I mean? He starts going crazy. He followed them down. He survived. And he's like, I'm going to kill you, John McClane, right now to avenge my brother. And he starts coming in to get him. And then Carl Winslow shoots him in the head and kills him. And that's kind of like, that's supposed to be like his redemption, is like, now I can shoot my gun and protect people again. But I was like, you still killed a 13-year-old kid. You shouldn't be on the job. I was like, I don't care that you saved John McClane. I was like, he could have killed him himself. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like, it's not a redemption for me because like that family is still suffering a loss of their child. But I get what the movie was going for. It was kind of like, yeah, now he's a good guy again, or now he's doing what's right. I was just kind of like, but you still shot and killed a 13-year-old kid. Like, let's not, you know what I mean? It's like, good for you that you killed the guy. You know what I mean? He was a menace, but you still did kill a 13-year-old kid. So, you know, you're not off the hook yet. And then there was this whole other subplot where, like, the news went to go find John McClane's kids and was, like, actively trying to like put out all of this media stuff about him. And I was just kind of like, that was way too far. I was like, what are they doing? I was like, what are they doing? They were literally, this is what they did, okay? This is what happened. They were like, I'm following the story. And at first I was like, okay, this is a good thing. Like, they're following the story. They're staying tuned to the story. Like, they're doing the ground level journalism, which is like being there at the scene and getting to know the full story. But then they showed up at his house to his kids and then recorded them and then basically told the nanny. The nanny was like, no, go away. And he was like, this is the last time they'll ever be with their parents again. And I was kind of like, what are you talking about? Let the kids be in bliss. Why'd you have to go over there and record them? I thought it was just so creepy, that part. So I was just I kind of tuned it out. So I was like, I don't really care about them. And I was just like, I don't know what they're trying to accomplish here, but anyways, all's well that ends well. A great Christmas Eve, a good Christmas movie. So yeah, I thought this was a good movie. I didn't think it was like spectacular or like all that crazy amazing, but I did think like for the time it was made, for understanding that like this was how movies were made, or like this is how action stars were made, I did enjoy it. So, it was pretty cool. It was kind of nice to watch like an old cheesy action comedy again. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I like Die Hard. I thought it was cool. Now, apparently there's been like sequel after sequel after sequel, so movie after movie. They keep it going. So, I don't know. I haven't seen any of the other ones, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.